Over the past few weeks, a little game called Among Us has completely blown up online. This simple game of deception released years ago for free on mobile and $5 on Steam, but it didn't see much popularity until this year. Now it's pulling in hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube and Twitch. The question is, why? Why is this basic mobile game the latest gaming sensation? Let's look a little closer at exactly what this game does so well. I believe the greatest asset of Among Us is its simplicity. There are plenty of similar deception games out there that didn't blow up, but accessibility is the one key difference between them and Among Us. For example, take a look at Town of Salem. I love Town of Salem, I've put hundreds of hours into it. It's a great deception game with pretty much the exact same pricing scheme of Among Us. But Town of Salem is not an easy game to learn. With the latest expansion, the game has nearly 50 roles, all with many unique attributes. You have to memorize what these roles are, what they do, how they interact. It's a lot to learn. Now, if you're willing to dedicate yourself to this game like I have, pour hundreds of hours into it, it's incredibly rewarding and deep, but most people aren't. I will readily admit that for tens of hours I hardly understood what was happening. The game just isn't intuitive. Now, how many roles does Among Us have? 2. Not even 5% of the amount of roles in Town of Salem, and both are far more simple than any individual Town of Salem role. You're either a crewmate with nothing special, or an imposter who can kill others and navigate through vents. It's incredibly easy to grasp. With so few roles and so few differences between them, a lack of depth is a real concern. At first, it appears the game consists of just imposters killing when nobody is around and crewmates hoping they walk up to the body at the right time. However, there is a lot more to it than that. As you play more, you catch on to more and more little tricks, ways to confirm people as crew and ways to falsely be confirmed as imposter. When to do tasks as crew and how to stop tasks from being completed as imposter. When an imposter should sabotage and how. How to communicate with silence. When you should press the central button to call a meeting. Speaking of buttons, I recommend you smash the like and subscribe buttons now. There are so many interlocking systems here that are hidden beneath the surface but reveal themselves naturally as you play more and more. By the time everyone gets a grasp on what to do, each game is a tense battle of trickery unlike even Mafia itself, the most classic deception game out there. A game that needs 10 players and a separate voice chat to be great doesn't sound like it'd be easy to set up. However, Among Us makes it quite simple. How? It's so cheap. People can even play with friends on mobile for free. At most you'll be spending $5. Even most kids can afford that. If you see a stream, as you probably have if you use Twitch at all, and think it looks fun, you'll probably drop the $5 yourself. And you can probably get your friends to do the same. The crazy low cost makes it nigh impossible to not recommend. Among Us is a game that is immediately easy to understand, not just because of its intuitive gameplay, but also its presentation. The designs are simple, but they convey what they need to incredibly well. So many potential problems for a game like this are cleverly avoided. For example, one problem that may pop up with limited time for discussion is the struggle to properly identify others, especially with randoms online. However, by making each player a distinct color, this is never an issue. It allows for callouts to be streamlined with simple color callouts as opposed to name callouts. Every vent is clearly marked, so each player can recognize when the position of one who is vented seems off if they're nearby and a crewmate, or where they can vent if they're imposter, but they still fit properly into the environment. Each room has distinct landmarks, so even new players can easily convey where they were when important to the group. Each object you interact with for tasks is clear to see, and finding out what to do for each task is never difficult despite them not having tutorials. Yes, this game is simple in terms of its art and sprites, but its overall presentation is very well executed. There are many great social deduction games, digital and tabletop. However, most lack something that Among Us has: movement. Most are built around round-table discussions and secret choices, but few incorporate an actual map to navigate. This is one of the greatest things Among Us implements, in my opinion. One problem that games such as Town of Salem face is that of lots of downtime for certain players. You need to ensure that players with more involved roles have enough time to do what they do, and this leaves players with less involved roles to spend lots of time just sitting there. However, with the navigation of Among Us, everyone has something they can and should be doing at pretty much all times, even after they die. It also forces imposters to use another layer of strategy in their killings. Where you kill and how you hide it becomes just as important to success as how you interact with others. Among Us allows for a lot of different ways to play. Almost every aspect of the game is easily customizable, including imposter count and maps. Even stuff like voting time and kill cooldown can be greatly adjusted. The game can feel entirely different based on how you adjust these things. It's also easy to design your own rules and basically play entirely different games. Just look at how popular hide and seek is. If you're playing by yourself, the game also has full-fledged online multiplayer with randoms. It's great that the game allows for so many players to play how they want. It's not something I would typically expect from such a cheap indie game. One of the most common failings of lesser deception games is that of poor balancing. Sometimes it just feels impossible to win or lose based on your role. I don't think I've ever seen the humans win and push the button in one of the games in the Jackbox Party Pack 6. However, Among Us balances its roles exceptionally well. Imposters have just the right amount of tools to have a good chance of winning despite being vastly outnumbered, while crewmates have just the right amount of tools to have a good chance of catching them before that happens. It keeps the game very replayable and very tense. It really does feel like anyone could win. The deception game genre has long been a fairly niche one. Mafia is a pretty popular party game, but other than that, you don't see many people looking to play them. The majority are tabletop games, and given recent world events, it's not exactly easy to set those up right now. So for fans such as myself, we have to turn to online games. Sadly, there aren't a huge amount of options out there. There's Town of Salem, as I mentioned before, but even that game's kind of dead. The other choices are Werewolf Online and kind of Push the Button on Jackbox? Those are fine, but Werewolf Online lacks depth and Push the Button is poorly balanced. Thankfully though, Among Us has come with good balancing, great depth, fun online options, and a populated player base. If I ever need to satisfy my deception game craving, I can pop on Among Us and be in a great game within seconds. The servers aren't always the most reliable, but it is great to finally have a popular, good, fully functional game like this with full online multiplayer. Among Us is not a flawless game. At times there are glitches that can ruin matches. I've seen imposter names through closed vents and people with their cameras permanently stuck somewhere. There also frankly is not a ton of content, with only 3 maps and 2 roles, though with such a low price tag that's almost to be expected. It would be nice to see alternative game modes like hide and seek officially supported, with rules enforced by the game itself and not just the players. However, I can see why they don't do this now, because the servers are clearly struggling to properly function with just the one main mode. There have been times where I just can't create lobbies because there are too many games. I can't say these things are too surprising for such a cheap indie game from a relatively unknown studio, but hopefully they'll be improved in the sequel. Some of them have already been addressed in the announcement blog post, so I'm pretty hopeful they will be. In conclusion, Among Us is one of the best social deduction games I've ever played. It's incredibly easy to grasp, yet it still contains lots of depth. It has a clean presentation that clearly conveys everything to the player. It allows the player to greatly customize their experience. It adds new layers to the social deduction game genre. For $5, I'd absolutely recommend this title to everyone. It's not hard to see why it blew up. It's a fantastic game. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video, commented, hit the notification bell, and or subscribed. Check out my review of Paper Mario: The Origami King, a shockingly good title that I discuss in depth. I plan on continuing to make similar content in the future, so please stay tuned if you're interested. If you have any feedback, feel free to let me know in the comments or on the social media accounts linked in the description. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram to see the latest updates on the channel. Thanks again for watching. See ya!